My friend Jake mysteriously vanished a year ago, while attempting a strange internet challenge. The challenge involved trespassing, in the dead of night, into a particular abandoned apartment building on the outskirts of Chicago, hopping into the only elevator in there, dialing a specific combination of floor buttons, and if the entire operation was performed correctly and flawlessly, the elevator car should eventually end its run and open its doors on an unmarked floor that shouldn't even exist. Between the floors 12 and 14, please note, the building has 14 actual floors, but as customary, the number 13 was simply numbered as 14, so the building appears to have 15 floors. Once reaching this unmarked floor, if the passenger decided to step out of the elevator, they would find themselves in a parallel dimension, which they could explore at will. In any case, the most important thing was to remember the right combination of floor buttons, i.e., the specific floors to travel to. The interdimensional traveler had to push those buttons in the correct sequence to be able to return to the lobby floor, in the reality of origin. Failing to input the right combination at the first attempt would result in either never being able to return from the parallel reality, or possibly ending up in a different, alternate universe. Now, Jake vanished the night he was attempting that interdimensional elevator challenge, unbeknownst to his family and friends, including myself. He had confidentially announced to me that he was going to attempt that particular challenge in order to shoot a new video for his massive YouTube channel audience, but he made me promise to keep it to myself. He never told me when exactly he would make the attempt, though. By the way, Jake's YouTube channel specializes in the paranormal and the bizarre, so that particular video would surely have turned into a massive viral hit on his channel. Jake and I are both in our early 30s. Our respective girlfriends introduced us just a couple of years ago, as I was researching strange time anomaly occurrences in Chicago to collect new material for my small YouTube channel. Jake's girlfriend, Emily, was the one who first raised the alarm about his disappearance, and she was the last person to see him alive the night he went out to attempt the challenge by himself. Emily knew about his precise plan for that fateful night. As she told the police officers who were dispatched in response to her 911 call, the whole thing was supposed to be a routine filming of a typical scary/paranormal video for his YouTube channel, but the guy failed to return home. And even before that, his phone had gone dead, and she hadn't been able to call him and check upon him as usual. His last WhatsApp message to Emily was, "I'm now entering the elevator. It seems fully operational, just as the guys in that dark web forum assured me. I'll try to contact you from the parallel reality, smiley face. Kiss." This message was the caption under a selfie of him standing in the elevator's cabin. Emily showed the photo to me and my girlfriend the morning after the disappearance. In the photo, you could see the interior of a typical elevator car from the early 1970s, spacious enough for maybe 6 people, with its walls covered in wooden/reddish panels and with a large mirror on the wall opposite the entrance of the elevator cabin. You could also see part of the buttons panel, and you could clearly see there was no button for a 13th floor. The police turned the building inside out to try and locate Jake. Of course, they carefully inspected the elevator car and its shaft, as well as the entire area surrounding the building. The building had no security cameras whatsoever, and those few surveillance cameras in the surrounding area didn't register anything unusual that could help the investigation and the search efforts. My friend had just disappeared into thin air. Jake's parents, his girlfriend, his other family members, and his friends were simply devastated, including me. He was a really good guy, and he used to donate much of his revenue from his YouTube channel to various charities across the city. Police told his parents and Emily that they were going to investigate a lead to a possible human organ harvesting trap scheme as the likely culprit of Jake's disappearance. It could be that the abandoned building challenge had been promoted online in certain shady chat rooms and message boards in order to attract would-be interdimensional explorers to a nightmarish trap. I figured an illegal medical team would be ready to grab and quickly anesthetize the poor guy as he stepped out of the elevator car on the designated floor, in that deserted building, where they would surely have prearranged a fully functional operating room, ready to dissect the victim's body, harvest all the useful organs and body parts, and ditch the dismembered remains, making sure no trace was ever left. Maybe that was it. That's what happened to Jake. Maybe. Or maybe not. I just couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, Jake was somehow still in that building, somehow trapped inside. Who knows, maybe in an alternate reality, or an anomaly of some sorts. Maybe his mission had succeeded after all, well, kind of. The thought would leave me even months after the disappearance. I didn't say anything to anybody, not even to the persons closest to my missing dear friend, but I started an investigation of my own into his disappearance. I began participating in the same forum on the dark web, where he found the elevator challenge. That obscure message board is a pretty exclusive place. I used Jake's secret backup access credentials not to raise suspicions, because the police had seized his main access credentials and were also investigating the dark web forum, although with zero progress up to that point. In that forum, I learned a whole lot about not only that particular elevator challenge but also, more in general, about these secret interdimensional access portals or doorways that are supposedly located pretty much all around the world and all around us, some of them in the most unassuming spots, like certain public toilets, or particular vending machines, for example, or remote phone booths, or certain elevator cars. I also learned that other people had mysteriously vanished in that building since it was built, and up to the very year it was abandoned and decommissioned, which was in 1988, the official reason being its alleged weakened structure. The building was supposed to be demolished, but that never happened, for unknown reasons. The elevator challenge originated in the pre-internet era, sometime in the very early 1990s when an urban legend about a mysterious guy in his mid-20s named Eric spread through the city. According to this legend, Eric was spotted wandering the streets around that particular building on one awfully rainy morning. The poor fellow was soaked wet, shoeless, frightening the few passers-by, screaming things that made no sense, and apparently feverish and delirious. When a police car intervened on the scene, he said his name was Eric, but he didn't recall his last name, and kept repeating to the police officers the same story over and over again, which was that he had simply come out of that building and that this wasn't his world and he needed help to get back home, back to his own universe. He said he had immediately realized he was in the wrong reality because as soon as he'd exited the abandoned building, he had noticed that all cars around were different. Police then tried to arrest him for his own safety, but he freaked out and started running as fast as he could back to the building, which he entered again, followed by the two police officers in pursuit. The last person to see Eric was one of the two police officers that were chasing him. Eric was seen hopping into the elevator car, with the police officer not being close enough to stop him before the elevator's doors closed. While one officer stayed in the lobby in case Eric returned down, the other one started climbing up the stairs to try and catch him on whichever floor the elevator would stop at. The elevator kept moving up and down, randomly going from a floor to another, with the poor police officer chasing it up and down the stairs like in a weird game of cat and mouse, never able to get there in time when the elevator's sliding doors would open for a few seconds at each stop before departing again for the next floor in the bizarre sequence. When finally the elevator car came to a halt at the lobby level on the ground floor, the sliding doors opened and, to the surprise of the policemen who had stayed on the ground floor, no one was inside it. Subsequently, the whole building and surrounding area were thoroughly searched, but no trace of Eric was ever found. Eric had simply vanished into thin air. So, after learning more about the origins of that elevator challenge and having been chatting for a few months with the very interesting people on the forum who, by the way, were extremely serious about the phenomenon being the real deal, I started believing more and more that maybe my friend Jake was really stuck in the same situation that Eric had experienced. The only differences being that Eric was likely from a reality parallel to ours, and he was probably able to get back to his home reality or possibly ended up in yet another different parallel reality. As silly as that sounded, One afternoon I went online on the forum and asked people in there to give me the specific combination of floors to access the same alternate reality Jake had gotten himself trapped into, because, well, I was sure as hell going to try and rescue him. And I specifically asked for the exact return combination, to make sure to get back home after the rescue operation I was going to attempt. They were all very helpful and supportive, and with their blessings, I was ready to embark on my interdimensional rescue mission. Which brings us to exactly 1 month ago today.